Right, Nuha, let's start with you. Resilience. It has been the golden word for the last 10 years, hasn't it? Resilience has really taken over this space. Do we understand what that means? And do we understand what that means specifically in terms of what community resilience is, which is the foundation and the starting point, I think, for all resilience development programs? So please feel free to let us know a bit about what you're doing and your thoughts and some of your thoughts on that.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, David, again, and always a pleasure to see an old friend and be connected to the ISRM. So when we speak about resilience, maybe I'll start with just briefly about what ICLAI is doing. So ICLAI, we are a network of around 2,500 cities that is looking into addressing issues around sustainability and all what that entails, and in particular in my field and on my role as a senior expert in urban resilience and climate adaptation. What we are trying to do here is basically to understand what resilience means, not only from the element of institutional capacities and resilience assessments that we do have a wide range of experts and knowledge that has been built on along the last, I would say, 10 to 15 years. But actually, what does that mean for communities when it comes into building resilience and having impact on the ground, but most importantly, measuring impact on the ground, and what kind of what we call a transformative resilience building that we are trying to bring here. So I think what is really key in that discussion for us to understand, David, is what do we mean by a community, and what does that entail? Is it actually the physical elements that we are speaking about when it comes into boundaries and the judicial systems and how we define actually the geographical level of exposure to risk when it comes into whether climate or any other hazards? Or is it actually the connections between the different community members that are building their solidarity and bringing their strength together when it comes into response to risk, but also preparedness at the first stage? So I will definitely maybe explore more through the discussion. What do we mean by that? The differences between communities and societies, because that's, again, there are two different terminologies that we use to use more or less within the same context, but they do bring different perspectives and different elements. And then most importantly, how that is connected to the element of human security, because that also tends to fall between the cracks a bit when we speak about climate impacts, but rather bringing the elements of fragility into the context as we've seen, as we see actually across the world. And then how can we actually measure that in order to come back to my very first point, measuring impact on the ground when it comes into the local community members.
You've really just thrown just so many things that we need to talk about. The first is, I was interested you use the word terminology. It's actually quite difficult to describe what we're talking about. In terms of what resilience is and the approaches we're taking. You've described a number of approaches, one in community, one is in terms of qualities, whether it's preparedness, whether it is post-event capability, whether it is the interconnectivity.